The night was an ocean of silence, the kind that presses against your chest and makes even your heartbeat sound too loud. Ethan Cole had spent enough years alone on his ranch to know every sound the land made, every creak of the barn door, every rustle of wind through dry grass. But tonight, something felt different. The air was thicker, colder, and the moon hung low and swollen like a watchful eye over the plains. His horse, Jasper, wouldn't stop shifting nervously in the stall, snorting and stamping as if it sensed something unnatural. Ethan lit his lantern, muttering under his breath, and stepped out into the night. The storm had been teasing the horizon, all evening, flashes of lightning too far away to hear, a low growl of thunder rolling beneath the earth. He was halfway to the barn when he saw her. At first, she looked like a Maria standing just beyond the corral, motionless, her pale shape rippling under the dim light. Then, as his eyes adjusted, he realized it was a woman barefoot, wrapped in a tattered white cloth that clung to her like mist. Her hair hung wet and tangled, sticking to her face. She didn't look up until he called out, voice rough from disuse. "Ma'am, you lost?" Her head snapped toward him, and the lantern light caught her eyes startlingly bright, reflecting gold for just a heartbeat before dulling to gray. She took a step back, clutching the cloth tighter around her shoulders. "Please," she said softly, her voice trembling, raw. "Don't come closer. And whatever happens, a broken bar, don't take the cloth off." Ethan froze. The way she said died up. It wasn't fear of him. It was fear for him. He lowered the lantern slightly but didn't move away. "You're hurt?" he asked, noticing the way her knees buckled slightly, the dirt and blood streaked on her feet. "There's a storm coming. You'll catch your death out here." Her expression twisted, torn between desperation and something deeper, shame, perhaps. "Death doesn't scare me anymore," she whispered. "It's what waits beyond it that does." He didn't know what to say to that. The words hung heavy between them, swallowed by the low rumble of thunder. Ethan had seen his fair share of strange folks since the railroads came through, drifters, escapees, even a few fanatics claiming to be prophets. But this woman didn't fit any mold. Her voice had a weight to it, a kind of truth that dug under his skin. Still, he couldn't just leave her there. "Look," he said, taking off his coat. "You can stay in the barn tonight. I'll keep the fire going. We'll figure this out in the morning." When he stepped closer, she flinched as though he'd struck her. "Don't touch me," she breathed, backing away. "Please, if you value your soul, don't come any nearer." That gave him pause. "I don't know what you've been through, but I ain't gonna hurt you," he said, his tone softening. "You're safe here." Her lips trembled as she nodded, but her eyes darted toward the barn like she was afraid something might follow. She moved quickly now, the cloth trailing behind her in the wind, whispering like something alive. Ethan followed at a distance, not wanting to spook her further. The moment they stepped onto the barn, Jasper began to whinny frantically, jerking against his reins. The other horses stomped and snorted, eyes rolling wide. Ethan frowned, moving to calm them, but the woman's presence seemed to fill the space with static like lightning about to strike. "You see?" she murmured, half to herself. "Even the beasts know what I am." He turned sharply. "What you are? You're a woman in trouble, that's all I see." Her gaze lifted to his, and for the first time, he saw the glimmer of tears in her eyes. "You shouldn't have seen me at all," she whispered. "I shouldn't be here." She sank down onto a pile of old feed sacks, clutching the white cloth like a lifeline. The fabric shimmered faintly in the lamplight, and Ethan realized it wasn't ordinary. Its threads gleamed like silver spider silk, moving as though it breathed with her. "What is that?" he asked quietly, unable to stop staring. She didn't answer. Instead, she looked toward the open barn doors, where the wind was picking up, carrying the smell of rain and dust. "If the cloth leaves me," she said slowly, "the thing beneath wakes. And when it wakes, no one remains who remembers me." Her words sent a chill crawling up his spine. He should have left it there. He should have closed the barn doors, given her space, and walked back to his cabin. But curiosity was a cruel thing, and something about her words tugged at his mind like a hook. "Who are you?" he asked. What happened to you?" She shook her head. "Once, I was loved," she said, her voice cracking. "Once, I was human. But mercy bound me when judgment failed. And this cloth is all that keeps the hunger from breaking through." Ethan didn't understand most of it, but the despair in her voice was unmistakable. He sat down on an old stool a few feet away, the lantern between them, its glow flickering on the rough wooden beams. Outside, the wind howled louder, rattling the walls. The woman closed her eyes and began to hum a low, haunting melody that made the air itself seem to hum in reply. It was then that he saw it. Just for a second, where the edge of the cloth met her ankle, the faint shimmer of light, like embers glowing beneath her skin. He blinked, and it was gone, but the image burned in his mind. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "whatever you think you're hiding, maybe I can help." Her eyes snapped open. "No." The shout made the horses rear again. "No one can help me. You must never see what lies beneath." But Ethan couldn't let it go. The rational part of him told him this woman was delusional, maybe sick from hunger or fever. The other part, the one that had seen strange lights over the ridge at night and heard whispers in the wind, told him she might be telling the truth. He nodded slowly, pretending to agree. "All right. No more questions tonight," he said. "You can rest here. I'll stay close, make sure you're safe." She hesitated, searching his face for deceit, then gave a wary nod. "The moment you see what's beneath this cloth," she said, voice trembling, "you will never sleep again. Promise me you'll leave it be." "I promise," he said. But even as he spoke, his eyes drifted once more to the cloth. Its edges flickered like candle flame, and in its faint shimmer, he swore he saw a face as it twisting, silent, watching him. And outside, as lightning split the sky, Ethan Cole felt the first touch of something ancient stirring in the wind. The wind had turned vicious by the time Ethan carried a few logs into the cabin. The storm that had been threatening all night finally broke loose, hurling rain like fists against the window panes. The fire in the hearth sputtered but held steady, throwing long shadows that danced across the floorboards. The woman sat in the corner, her knees drawn to her chest, still wrapped in that eerie white cloth. She hadn't spoken a word since entering. Only her eyes moved, tracking every flicker of light, every sound that dared to disturb the silence between them. Ethan poured her a cup of water, his boots echoing against the wooden floor. "Here," he said quietly. "You look like you could use this." Her hands didn't move at first. Then, slowly, she reached out, her fingers pale and trembling. When she touched the cup, he noticed her skin shimmered faintly, as if her veins glowed from within for the briefest second. The air grew colder. She took a small sip, then lowered the cup with shaking hands. "You shouldn't be kind to me," she whispered, eyes fixed on the fire. "It will make it harder when I'm gone." Ethan frowned. "You're not going anywhere till the storm passes. Whatever trouble you're in, you can talk to me." She gave a sad smile. If only words could fix what time already buried. He studied her, the lines of her face shifting between youth and exhaustion. She looked like someone who had lived too many lives in one body. "You said something earlier," he began carefully. "About mercy binding you. About that cloth. What did you mean?" She turned her face toward him, and for a heartbeat, her eyes caught the firelight again, a flaring gold like molten metal. "You wouldn't believe me. Try me," he said. Her lips parted, but she hesitated, glancing at the door as if expecting something or someone to burst through. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "Long ago, when the first settlers came to these plains, they brought more than wagons and faith. They brought greed. They built on land that was never theirs. A man found me then, a wanderer like you. He thought I was a woman lost in the wilderness. But I wasn't lost. I was cast out." Ethan leaned forward, the wood creaking beneath his chair. "Cast out from where?" Her gaze drifted toward the flames. "From mercy itself." The words hung heavy between them. The fire popped, sending a shower of sparks up the chimney. Ethan's heart thudded. "You're saying you're what? Some kind of spirit?" She shook her head slowly. "Once human. Then something else. My sins were written into me, carved into my flesh. The cloth is not clothing, it is a shroud. A binding to keep the hunger asleep. Hunger? He repeated, the word catching in his throat. Yes. Her voice trembled now, the fear in it real and raw. It lives beneath my skin. It waits. It remembers every face I ever loved, every life I ever touched. If the cloth is taken, it will wake you and it will want. And what it wants cannot be satisfied. Ethan rubbed his jaw, trying to piece her story together. She sounded mad, and yet something about the air around here, the electricity in it, told him this was no ordinary madness. Then why come here? He asked quietly. If that thing's inside you, why risk being near anyone? I didn't choose this place, she said. I was carried by the wind. The storm always finds me when the seal weakens. Her hands gripped the cloth tighter. It's thinning. I can feel it. He moved closer, lowering his voice. Is there anything I can do? Her eyes softened, but tears welled up. You've already done too much. The moment you saw me, you changed your fate. Ethan swallowed hard. He wanted to believe she was delirious, suffering from fever, but deep down he felt the truth of her words settle in his bones. The storm outside grew louder, rattling the windows. Then, in the midst of the noise, he heard Ida low hum, not from the wind, not from the fire. It was coming from the cloth. It pulsed faintly with light, like something alive. The shadows on the walls twisted and stretched, bending unnaturally toward her. Ethan's stomach dropped. What's happening? Her voice was barely audible. It's waking. He stood, uncertain, taking a step closer. You said the cloth keeps it asleep. Maybe I can help tighten it, or don't touch it, she cried, her voice rising in panic. Please. If you touch it, it will remember you. But his curiosity had already betrayed him. His hand hovered just inches from the fabric, drawn by a force he couldn't name. The light pulsed again, and a whisper brushed against his mind, not words, but emotion, sorrow, hunger, longing. It felt like someone calling his name from a great distance. He stumbled back, gasping. What was that? Her eyes glistened with tears. The hunger knows you now. You should have never seen it. Ethan turned away, running a hand through his hair, trying to shake off the chill crawling up his spine. You expect me to believe there's something alive in that cloth? I don't expect belief, she murmured. Only distance. But it was too late. The room seemed to hum around them, the air vibrating as if the storm had moved inside. The fire dimmed, shrinking to a faint glow. The shadows grew longer, thicker, until they seemed to breathe. The woman's face twisted in pain, and she clutched at her chest as if holding something back. It's stronger than I thought, she whispered. It's hungry. Tell me what to do. Ethan shouted over the rising wind that howled through the cracks in the cabin walls. Don't let it see your fear, she gasped. It feeds on that first. But fear was all Ethan had left. Every instinct told him to run, but something kept him rooted in place, a mix of awe and terror. The cloth shimmered brighter now, its threads glowing like molten silver, and beneath it, something moved. It wasn't human. It shifted, rippling under her skin as if her body were just a thin shell holding something monstrous. Please, she begged again, her voice breaking, whatever happens, don't take it off. Swear it. Ethan nodded, but the sound of the humming, the whispering was unbearable. It clawed at his mind, pulling him toward her. His hand trembled, the heat from the fire replaced by a strange cold that seeped from the cloth itself. Every fiber of him wanted to touch it, to understand what lay beneath. Then lightning struck outside, shaking the cabin to its core. The force of it blew open the door, and the wind screamed through the room, scattering ashes and embers. The lantern fell, rolling across the floor. In that flash of chaos, Ethan saw the woman's face contort, not in pain, but in fear of what she could no longer control. Her voice came out as a whisper swallowed by the storm. It's too late. The light from the cloth flared once more, painting the cabin walls in ghostly silver. And for a moment, Ethan saw the impossibly shapes and faces swirling within it, thousands of them, crying, reaching, begging to be free. He stumbled backward, heart hammering, unable to look away. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the light dimmed. The woman fell still, clutching the cloth to her chest, eyes wide and wet with terror. The storm quieted outside. The only sound left was the ragged breath of two souls who both knew something had changed, something had awoken, and it wasn't going back to sleep.